Shakespeare's Measure for Measure is intimately concerned with the world of prostitution houses, pimps, and venereal diseases. In other words, the seedy underbelly of the city of Vienna. Throughout the play, we see frequent references to the life led by the people that populate this shadowy world, and we are introduced to the characters that dwell there. What exactly, then, is Shakespeare reacting to? To answer this, we must delve deep into the seedy underbelly of London and see how closely it is related to Shakespeare's life. I think a great place to start is by understanding London's geography. The city was divided by the Thames River, making a north and south side. The south bank was the home of the taverns, pubs, bear baiting, brothels, gambling, and theatre. In short, where all the fun was had. Shakespeare's Globe Theatre was in the heart of the South Bank.
In the late 16th and early 17th century, London was growing rapidly as a city, both physically and in population. With that growth emerged a whole host of social issues. London saw a massive influx of pimps, prostitutes, brothels, gamblers, runaways, cutpurses, and other undesirables during Shakespeare's lifetime. Shakespeare, to the best of our knowledge, was writing this play during the years leading up to 1604, smack in the middle of these increasing social issues. Another important issue to look at is the Church's fight against prostitution. By fully understanding this, we can begin to see parallels with Measure for Measure and Angelo's violent pursuit of a prostitution-free society. The Church's fight against prostitution stems from early 17th century beliefs. The only acceptable reason for sexual intercourse, from the Church's perspective, was reproduction. The idea of sex purely for pleasure, then, spits in the face of the Church's teachings, hence the furious reaction against the world of prostitution in London.
Now, let's talk about young Master Rash, aka venereal disease, a significant part of the world of prostitution that is often joked about in this play. The diseases were painful and conspicuous, and hiding one was often impossible. Shakespeare's characters deal with the venereal diseases with humor, but they actually presented serious issues in his time. They were one of the most frequent reasons given for hospital visits during the 16th and 17th centuries in London. Poor people could not afford a private doctor, which meant that in order to get treatment, they would have to suffer through a public questioning and examination of their condition. Patients with venereal disease were also forced into separate wards for treatment. Women were treated even worse than men. Men were typically allowed to enter the hospital more frequently, faced less disapproval, and were generally more financially supported. Women with venereal disease faced far more stigmatization as they were suspected of prostitution. Often, hospital care would be unavailable to a woman.
As for fun facts about brothels, prostitution, and disease in London during this time, we should take a look at prunes. In Act 2, Scene 1, Hoffbein references a hunger for stewed prunes, insinuating that it represents a desire to visit a brothel. Within a brothel environment, stewed prunes would most definitely be on the table. Prunes were recommended as a part of a diet for those suffering from venereal diseases, which sounds quite funny today, but made sense in the Elizabethan mind.
The massive presence of prostitution and venereal diseases maintained in London allowed Shakespeare to populate his plays with all kinds of innuendos. It also provides a fascinating point of access to the lower and upper classes in Measure for Measure. The reaction from the Church against the world of prostitution provides a window into the world of authority, attempting to control a rampant plague of prostitution.